My wife told me, "You can't afford a lawyer, just sign the divorce papers." I stayed silent. Then she walked into court smiling, until a man in a $4,000 suit sat beside me and said, "Actually, I'm his brother, and I'll be handling this now. My name is Nathan Reed. I'm 34. I've lived in Portland for most of my adult life. For nearly 10 years, I was married to Danielle. We didn't have kids, just us, a quiet neighborhood, and a modest 2-story townhouse with a red door and hydrangeas out front. The kind of life I thought was steady, if not perfect. 3 months ago, on a Sunday morning, Danielle made eggs like usual. We didn't talk much, but that wasn't unusual lately. Then, over coffee, she looked at me, calm as anything, and said, "We need to talk." I thought she was going to bring up our recent communication problems, or maybe suggest couples counseling. I wasn't prepared for what followed. "I want a divorce," she said. No anger, just firm, professional, like she'd rehearsed it. I blinked. "You serious?" She nodded, pulled a large envelope from the drawer beside her, and slid it across the table. "These are my proposed terms. I've already retained counsel." It took a moment to sink in. I didn't even open the envelope. She continued, "I want the house. I want 80% of our combined savings. I've calculated my loss of income from turning down that San Diego job last year, and this accounts for that." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. It was like watching a machine at work. She wasn't just ending our marriage. She was gutting it with surgical precision. Then came the real blow. "And Nathan," she paused, "let's be honest. You can't afford to fight this. I know exactly what's in your accounts. I know what you make. My lawyer bills $600 an hour. This isn't going to end well for you if you drag it out. Just sign and walk away clean." She said it like she was doing me a favor. There wasn't a flicker of guilt on her face. Not even hesitation. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there and looked at her. For a long time. It wasn't heartbreak I felt. It was more like watching someone you thought you knew take off a mask and realizing you never really knew them at all. She stood up and left the envelope on the table. "I'll give you a few days." That afternoon, I sat on the porch for hours. I didn't know what to do. Every part of me wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I'd never seen this side of her. Ruthless. Cold. Like I was just a business asset being liquidated. And the worst part? She was right. I wasn't the type to lawyer up and wage legal war. She knew that. She counted on it. There was one thing she didn't count on. She thought I was alone. She thought I'd burned every bridge. She didn't know about Rachel. We hadn't spoken in 6 years. After our dad passed, things got ugly between us. Harsh words. Accusations. Years of silence. I figured that bridge had turned to ash. And maybe it had. But when I looked at that envelope again, when I really thought about what Danielle was trying to do, not just divorce me, but dismantle me, I remembered Rachel. And I remembered something else. Danielle had no idea who she was. She thought I couldn't afford a fight. And she was absolutely right. But what she didn't know was that I might not have to. That night, I didn't sleep. I tried to read, tried to watch something dumb and forgettable, tried to distract myself in any way I could. But every time I blinked, I saw Danielle's face. Calm, confident, sure she'd already won. By the time the sun started to rise, I still hadn't touched the envelope. It sat there on the table like a threat, like a final verdict. I knew that if I didn't fight this, I'd lose everything. Not just money or property. I'd lose the ability to say I stood up for myself when it mattered. So I grabbed my phone and pulled up a number I hadn't looked at in over half a decade. Rachel. There was a long pause before I typed just 6 words. "I need help. Please call me." Then I waited. I stared at the screen like it might explode. Nothing happened that day. No reply. No read receipt. I figured she either blocked me years ago or deleted the number. I didn't blame her. The next morning, I was making coffee when my phone rang. "Rachel." I picked up. She didn't say hello. She said, "I heard what happened." My stomach nodded. You talked to someone?" "No," she said. "Danielle posted pictures with some guy named Gavin last month." I connected the dots. I figured it had to be coming. I didn't even know about the photos. I was stunned silent. "I'll take the case," she said. I blinked. Just like that. She paused. "No one humiliates my brother like that. Not while I'm breathing." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Rachel, you don't owe me anything right now. We can deal with the rest later. Right now, send me every financial document you have. Emails, statements, everything." It felt strange. After all that time apart, all that anger and silence, she slipped right back into the role of protector. Not out of obligation. Something else. Maybe she needed it too. 2 weeks later, it was court day. I arrived early. Danielle was already there, seated on the other side of the courtroom. Hair done, makeup perfect, holding iced coffee in one hand, tapping her phone with the other. She looked up when I walked in and gave me this look, like she pitied me. Or maybe like she was checking to see if I looked broken yet. Her lawyer walked up to me, papers in hand. Mr. Reed, he said too politely. We assume you've had time to consider the agreement. Just so you know, our side is still open to settlement. I looked him in the eye. I'm waiting for my attorney. He smiled without any warmth. Of course you are. And then, right on cue, the double doors to the courtroom opened. Everyone turned. Every head, even Danielle's. In walked Rachel. Sharp navy blue suit. Clean-cut hair. Zero emotion on her face. She didn't glance at Danielle, didn't acknowledge the lawyer. She just walked straight up to me, set down her case file, and said, "Let's begin." The air changed. The attorney's face stiffened. Danielle looked from me to Rachel, blinking like she was trying to process what was happening. Rachel introduced herself to the judge and opposing counsel. "My name is Rachel Reed," she said. "I'm representing the defendant." Danielle didn't say a word, but I saw it. The exact moment she realized this wasn't going to go the way she planned. And that's when I knew I wasn't alone anymore. The courtroom wasn't silent, but it felt that way. Danielle's lawyer shifted uncomfortably as Rachel introduced herself and laid out our position. We were rejecting the settlement in full and filing for a forensic audit of all shared accounts, retroactive for the last 3 years. Danielle's jaw tightened. She didn't speak, but she looked like she wanted to. Her confidence was gone, replaced by something else, calculation. She was trying to figure out what Rachel knew, how deep this would go. Over the next 6 weeks, Rachel turned the case into something entirely different. What Danielle had tried to make a quick, clean cut became a slow, painful autopsy of the truth. Rachel subpoenaed joint account statements, Danielle's work expense logs, and even travel invoices. With everything in hand, she laid it out like a roadmap. Luxury purchases sent to a certain Gavin Ellis. Danielle had told me Gavin was a junior associate she'd been mentoring. What she hadn't said, that she'd been using joint funds to fly him out, cover 5-star weekend getaways, and buy him a Mont Blanc watch that she labeled as a networking gift. But the final nail came from social media. Rachel matched Danielle's supposed corporate retreats with Gavin's very public Instagram. One post showed him poolside at a luxury resort, timestamped the exact weekend Danielle told me she'd be in Denver for training. Rachel printed it, full color. In court, she handed it to the judge without fanfare and said, "We believe this photo speaks for itself." Danielle sat motionless as the judge reviewed the paperwork. Her lawyer glanced sideways at her. He whispered something, but she didn't respond. We amended the filing. Rachel requested not only the dismissal of Danielle's spousal support claim, but full ownership of the house, based on the inheritance I'd used for the down payment. The judge agreed. Danielle was ordered to vacate the property within 30 days. We also filed a motion for the repayment of over $40,000 in joint funds misused for non-marital purposes. When her attorney tried to negotiate it down, Rachel didn't budge. She wanted the upper hand. Rachel said quietly, outside the courtroom. Now she can carry the weight of it. By the end of the proceedings, Danielle's position had collapsed. The woman who once said I couldn't afford to fight was now walking away with a fraction of what she'd asked for, and a massive legal bill she didn't see coming. Word eventually spread at her workplace. The affair, the misuse of company time and resources, none of it sat well with management. Last I heard, Gavin had stopped replying to her messages. Their little relationship didn't survive the fallout. As for me, I sold the old Mustang. Used it to put a down payment on a place with a small yard and a quiet view. Simple, peaceful. Rachel and I still talk. We even had a real conversation, no legal briefs involved, over drinks last weekend. We don't pretend the past didn't happen, but we've decided it doesn't get to define us either. Danielle tried to dismantle me. She thought I'd roll over, sign the papers, and let her walk off with the best pieces of my life. But she forgot something important. You don't need to shout to fight. Sometimes, all it takes is asking the right person to stand beside you. Someone who still knows who you are, even if it's been years.